And I'll never forget the day, a typical November day where the leaves had fallen on the street. And there in front of the synagogue were Torah scrolls, still smoldering, prayer books beautifully bound in leather as you could only see in the German synagogues. And of course we turned around, didn't know what happened, and turned around and went to visit our relatives. I remember their apartment was totally demolished. All their beautiful china, crystal, broken. And then we heard the horrific stories, what happened during the night. And that's how I found out about Kristallnacht.
That's the voice of the late Greta Freiberg. It's one of the many moving testimonials from Canadian Holocaust survivors, featured on a brand new mobile app called IWalk. It aims to unlock the educational potential of the National Holocaust Monument, Canada's most prominent memorial to the Holocaust, right across from the Canadian War Museum. Freiberg passed away in January 2023. She chaired the committee that created Toronto's Holocaust Education Centre, whose internationally recognized initiative of Holocaust Education Week begins today, November 4th. Public programs are running throughout the week to coincide with the commemoration of the Kristallnacht attacks of November 9th. That's why Ottawa's Centre for Holocaust Education and Scholarship chose this week to release the IWalk program. The app, downloadable to any mobile device or tablet, guides users through the National Holocaust Monument and explains the layered symbols and meanings in the memorial's design, architecture, and content. Mina Cohn and Artur Wilczynski, both directors at Ottawa's Centre for Holocaust Education, say the IWalk app makes the National Holocaust Monument far more accessible to the general public.
These images are not easily understood by people who walk through because there is no explanation next to them. So that's what the IWalk is doing.
Right. So again, what's really important is to have those voices of Canadian survivors and here. So it's not just these flat gray etchings that you see here on the wall, but that it gives it more color, more life.
I'm Zach Kaufman, sitting in for Ellen Besner. This is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, November 4th, 2024. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, and made possible in part by the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Vernovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. The National Holocaust Monument opened in 2017 and was designed by world-renowned architect and son of Holocaust survivors Daniel Libeskind. His provocative work is known for its jagged edges, sharp angles, and reputation for evoking strong public reactions. Libeskind's other Canadian landmark, the crystal entrance to the Royal Ontario Museum, opened in 2007 and has been an object of public controversy ever since. This summer, work began to renovate and overhaul elements of that structure. Cohn and Wilczynski gave the CJN Daily's very own Ellen Besner a tour of the National Monument to show how the IWalk app interfaces with the physical space. The app offers two versions, one for the general public and one for teachers and students, and is available in both English and French. Mina Cohn is the chair of the Centre for Holocaust Education and Scholarship. She was born in Israel and has lived in Ottawa for 40 years. Both her parents were Holocaust survivors. Artur Wilczynski came to Canada with his family as refugees from communist Poland in 1969. He's a decorated former senior public servant, and he served as Canada's ambassador to Norway and recently stepped down from his post as the University of Ottawa's special advisor on anti-Semitism. They met up with Ellen outside the National Monument a few weeks ago.
And so we're here at the National Holocaust Monument with the organizers of the Ottawa Committee for Holocaust Education, Mina Cohn and Artur Wilczynski. Welcome to the CJN Daily, and welcome finally to meet you in person.
It's great to meet you in person. Thanks for coming.
Great to meet you. Thank you for coming to Ottawa.
Thank you for having me here at the monument. I've never seen it in person, only on television during various ceremonies. So what was the reason behind, and anyone can start, you wanting to team up with the Shoah Foundation and Liberation 75 to digitize the experience of visiting the monument?
Mainly, we felt that the monument is not visited by too many people. We felt that those who visit it come out not really understanding the message behind it. And we felt that there is a need to help and improve this experience at the monument.
I mean, when you're here, there's no station tour guides that you could just walk up and get there's not even a audio walk, right? Like at a museum.
This is what it is. It provides an augmented reality experience for people who can come in, who can hear more stories that give life to the monument. The monument is intentionally a symbolic place, but it's one of the things that's really important is to give it a human dimension. And the IWalk, with the testimony, with the audio experience that comes with it, gives that human dimension, gives stories that are more linked to the Canadian experience, which makes it, I think, particularly valuable.
Now, for anybody that hasn't seen where the Holocaust Monument is, it's to the west of the Parliament buildings, just beside the Canadian War Museum. Okay, so we're walking in now to the main corridor up to the sign where it says the National Holocaust Monument. Where would the walk start?
The walk will start right here at the entrance. The signage is going to be right here. That's where people will stop before they continue the trip to download the QR code. Once this is done, the QR code will direct them on the tour through the monument.
Now, this monument, if I'm not mistaken, was originally unveiled in 2017. The sign that we're seeing to our left was a very famous sign because it was the National Holocaust Monument commemorates the murders, but they forgot to mention Jews the first time, our listeners may remember, and it was a big scandal, and they fixed it.
They did. I think that there was an important to make sure that it made reference to the 6 million Jewish men, women, and children that were murdered. It was sort of central to the story. The monument is shaped as a Star of David, but that was a glaring error. It was corrected by Canadian Heritage and the National Capital Commission, and it's been reinstalled with I think, an appropriate context. But again, it's only one paragraph, and that's why the IWalk is so important. It provides, again, that context, that survivor testimony that is so key, I think, for all visitors to this monument, Jews, non-Jews, Canadians, foreign visitors like we've met already here today.
Yeah, we met a couple from France whose mother survived the Holocaust.
So having that context of the IWalk, I think, is so important to complement the relatively limited information that's here at the monument.
Okay, so you said that the QR code would be here and it starts here. What will we see?
Well, it takes you through the monument itself. So as you come...
So we're walking now from the beginning. Wow. I've seen it on TV, but seeing it in person is completely different. Wow.
So as you see, there are 6 images here in the monument that were incorporated on the walls of the monument. But these images are not easily understood by people who walk through because there is no explanation next to them. So they are next to them. So that's what the IWalk is doing, primarily engaging with whatever is here.
So this one, for example, would be concentration camp gates, electrified gates.
Auschwitz. Right.
Okay, and this is train tracks.
Treblinka.
Right. Specifically, not just a generic.
No. So all these images were taken by famous Canadian photographer Edward Batinsky on a special trip to Europe, where he took pictures of whatever was left by the Holocaust and can be seen today. What we are doing is we are interpreting it. We're giving the historical background. We explain the location and help the visitor understand the message here. There is also a lot of symbolism in the monument.
So what happens? You press something, and whose testimonies would we hear from? This is so important.
So as you go through, we collected testimonies of Canadian survivors that have given testimony to the USC Shoah Foundation. And we're in these specific locations. So there are no testimonies here of somebody who is not represented by these images.
Can you give us a couple of examples off the top of your head?
David Shinto speaking about Auschwitz. Pinkas
Guder.
Guder is speaking about Warsaw. The image we have here, I'll walk you through.
Oh, that looks like the Remu synagogue.
Yeah, that is a synagogue, but next to it there is the Warsaw Ghetto. And you hear Pinka Scooter's voice describing the experience in Warsaw Ghetto when we talk about this image.
Right. So again, what's really important is to have those voices of Canadian survivors and to make sure, as Mina said, to tie them to the images here, to give again a human dimension to the experience here. So it's not just these flat gray etchings that you see here on the wall, but that it gives it more color, more life. And so again, those are the kinds of things that we know younger people are increasingly more engaged in when there's a personal connection and a personal story. Bringing them to this place gives it again particular meaning to Canadians and others who visit it.
Among the testimonies, you asked me who.
Yeah.
We have also, when we talk about the contribution of the Canadian Armed Forces or their involvement at the end of the war, we included a testimony by Mr. Mirsky, who is actually...
Of course, Colonel Mirsky.
Who is actually was an Ottawa citizen. He's not alive anymore. And we have his testimony on the IWalk when we discuss, the Canadian forces liberating
Bergen-Belsen.
Bergen-Belsen,
Absolutely.
exactly.
I wrote about it in my book,
Yeah.
too. And do they have to wear special glasses?
No.
Or that's not...
No.
No, you have it already on your phone?
Yeah, it's on your phone. I
It's
guess.
going to be on your phone, and as you walk, it will the iWalk app is divided into stops. Like the first stop is the information, the blue information panel. Once we finish listening to that segment, it will direct the students to stop number 1, which is this.
Which is what? Where are we now?
Treblinka, the beginning of the war. And then we go to Warsaw, the synagogue in Theresienstadt, the track 17 in Berlin, Auschwitz, and finally the last image, which represents the end of the war and the death march.
I would never have known that by coming here.
After we do these 6 images, we are inviting the students to come into this room, which is the memorial room and has the eternal light. So this is a place for reflection. It has the tallest walls in this area. One of the symbols in this monument is the feeling of being trapped, away from the environment, away from the surrounding, not seeing what happens outside, just like the Jews felt during the Holocaust.
One of the things that's really important is as Mina said, is that sense of isolation. The entire monument, as a physical presence, funnels you in as the victims of the Holocaust were, to increasingly remove them from the broader community and from outside.
I didn't even know this room existed, actually. You never see it on TV.
No, because everything takes place on the other side.
The IWalk will also explain what the eternal light means to Jewish people. There is a lot of stuff that we included that brings in the Jewish tradition, the Jewish perspective on things, and that's one of them.
And this is the final space where we can again reflect on that. And it's an opportunity for us to have those kinds of conversations. So I think it's a very, very important space before we move on to sort of a more hopeful part of the monument.
If you remember, when we came in, we went down. I don't know if you sensed that, but
A
if
little
you go,
bit.
yeah, you go out again and you'll see that you're coming down into this enclosure. And now we're going up. We're leaving the Holocaust and we're leaving the horrors and we're going up.
So this is the staircase up to the
Nobody
lookout.
would know that.
So
There's no
if-
signage. Like, how would you know? This is so important, this iWalk. It's
And
unbelievable.
from here, we walk out and we walk up the stairs. The stairs lead us to an outlook that you can directly see the Peace Tower of the Canadian Parliament, which is a hopeful symbol.
That despite the horror, despite the isolation, that we have an opportunity to rise and look towards Parliament, look towards Canada's seat of democracy, and recognize that we are working towards reconciling our history and our past with a more hopeful future. So as you can see, as we come up, it looks directly at the seat of the Canadian government and seat of Canadian democracy.
I would never have known that from here.
Like when, as you're standing here, I want to also emphasize the landscape. It's also symbolic. All the shrubs that you see here, the pebbles, they represent the resilience of the survivors. The shrubs are from the north of Canada. They're very hardy, and they represent the Canadian survivors who came to Canada and started life from scratch with a very difficult beginning. It wasn't easy.
How long would the IWalk take if you had to go through it?
70 minutes.
70 minutes. Right. And it would be on their phones or tablets, or how do...
Available on the phone and also on tablets, and the IWalk is bilingual and it's virtual. That means that a teacher who is in Toronto or Vancouver or somewhere in the east of Canada who wants to engage with the National Holocaust Monument as a lesson for their students can download the IWalk app and do the tour and listen. And for the students, we created a special pre and post educational material so the teachers can prepare the students before they come and also engage with them after the visit. So all of this is available on a special website that we created for the IWalk app. So all the information for educators, teachers, visitors is free on that website.
You're launching this, you mentioned the Canadian government and hopefulness. And I know a lot of Canadian Jews feel that right now it's very difficult to be Jewish in Canada. How do you navigate remembering the Holocaust on November 9th when people's minds are elsewhere in terms of Israel, Gaza? How do you make space?
Look, I mean, it's a complicated time. Members of our community are feeling more precarious and more vulnerable than they have in decades, and I feel it every day. I hear about it from friends and family and colleagues, students all the time. But I think that this place, this physical place, is one which I think can ground us in terms of understanding our history, understanding our ability to persevere. At the end of the day, I think we're compelled to try and be hopeful. So while I understand people's frustrations around the current situation, whether or not the government is doing enough to address anti-Semitism today, as somebody who is a refugee to Canada, who was born in Poland, who ran away from the anti-Semitism there and came to this country, I still consider myself blessed and lucky to live in a country as open and as welcoming and as relatively safe and secure as this one. For all the limitations of the individuals, the human beings who currently occupy Parliament, it is the seat of our democracy. It is about the future as well. It's about making sure that as Canadians and as Jewish Canadians, we make choices that are as hardy as these plants, that have set deep roots, that can withstand and are resilient to the forces that we're facing back then and the forces that we're facing today. That regardless of how difficult it is, we belong, we will continue to grow, and we will do what we can to make this country and our lives as Jews and as Canadians as positive as possible, one that is resilient and inclusive for all.
How relevant is it now, post-October 7th, to have this IWalk?
Well, one of the important factors included in the IWalk is the discussion of anti-Semitism during the Holocaust and also current anti-Semitism. So October 7th was a devastating event. The IWalk was created way before it, but it does touch on the issue that we are facing today, which is a dramatic increase in anti-Semitism and how to respond to it.
One of the things I think that's also important is that since October 7th, we've seen increasing instances of Holocaust denial and diminishment. And I think that having a virtual complement to this physical monument that students, that visitors can download, that again talks about the specificity of the Holocaust, that gives it life and meaning and ties it to the Canadian experience, I think is fundamentally important. So anything that we can do to, again, contribute to that knowledge of the Holocaust, to that the Jewish connection to it, particularly since October 7th, I think is very important.
A challenge that this has now is that Israel and Jews are being compared to Nazis and doing genocide, which is the narrative that has taken the world over. What kind of language or teaching in your IWalk addresses any of that? Or you want to keep it separate, maybe? You don't want to enter into the Middle East?
No. I think that this it doesn't go to the specificity of the Holocaust diminishment that maybe has come from October 7th, or the references to trying to make the comparison between what happened on October 7th and Israeli policy and that kind of, inappropriate analogy and comparison of Israeli actions to the Nazis. But I think it does talk about the broader situation of anti-Semitism in Canada that's been aggravated by October 7th. Part of the issue is to make sure that the IWalk is relevant as broadly as possible. We don't want to anchor everything in a framework that is related to the current crisis in the Middle East. It needs to go past that, and hopefully what's happening in the Middle East will end soon. But we want this to be a learning experience around the specificity of the Holocaust, why it was important to understand it, and hopefully it will contribute to individuals understanding that any kind of comparisons between what is happening in the Middle East today and the Holocaust are completely inappropriate and in fact compound the harm that's been done to the Jewish people back in the 40s and continues to be done to Jews here in Canada today.
I am a daughter of two survivors. I was raised in Israel, and I am very proud of my heritage as an Israeli, as a Canadian, as a Jew. The opportunity that we are offering right now to the public with the IWalk app is very timely. It is an educational opportunity for all, and we hope that it will provide people with a lot of material to think and reflect on what today means and what we can do about this difficult situation. When we come to this point, the IWalk deals with democracy, the importance of democracy, how we can keep democracy, what is our role in the democracy, how do we make sure that we don't end up in a situation where our leaders do not reflect what we want them to.
So 1933 Germany type of thing.
No, reflected on today's reality, like saving our democracy today by not allowing anti-Semites and other extremist groups to take control of our democracy.
One of the parts of Holocaust education that we often talk about is that it is around also civic education. You're learning about the importance of participation. You're learning about the importance of democracy, about the importance of human rights, that we all have to be vigilant. And again, this part of the IWalk, it aims to reinforce those messages around the importance of participation and importance of engagement and looking forward. This is a national monument. So I hope people from the community in particular, from Toronto, from Montreal, from other parts of the country, come here and use this physical space and use the content of the IWalk to have those kinds of difficult conversations with people who are having a hard time right now. Because I do think that being in a place where you can reflect, where you can have these kinds of conversations, where there is the appropriate context that helps people have those conversations is so important to make sure that all of us feel supported and nurtured. Too often we go after each other, and I think that is unhelpful. And I think that coming to a place like this reminds us that despite our differences, we share a common fate, either negative, as the history has shown, or positive, as the future may hold. And I want to be positive, and I want to look forward, and I want all Canadian Jews to know that they belong and that they can help shape the future of this country. And I think that the IWalk and the way that the IWalk ends in this place of democracy is, I think, an important message to give to all Canadian Jews who are feeling particularly vulnerable today.
This point of ending was not something we thought of. It was the architect,
Daniel Libeskind, did it.
Yeah, who made sure that there is a place, a spot in this monument where you can look into the future.
Or the new Ottawa Senators Arena, whichever. Oh, that's on the other side.
The arena is on the other side.
Across the street.
The other side.
Yeah, go see the Sens and then come to the Holocaust Monument. Awesome.
I think that
Actually, it'll be good because there'll be much more transit here.
That's exactly it, right? So I think that this area is under real transformation. See all the condominiums that are being built here.
Yeah.
There are other monuments there. So there's the person's monument over there. The monument to Afghanistan of warriors is coming on the other side. So it's going to increase the traffic. And I think that's why tools like the IWalk are so important, because people who might literally just stumble upon this place might not know the context, might not have paid any attention to the history of the Holocaust, particularly as we're looking into the future, will have an opportunity to learn about it. And the tools that we're using are the modern tools, or virtual tools, that will, I think, complement the physical place that we're in. So I think it's a really important step forward.
Well said. Thank you so much for being here on this beautiful day to tell me about the IWalk, and we'll be watching it when it launches. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, made possible in part by the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. And one final note. At the CJN, we believe in the critical importance of showcasing Canadian Jewish life across the country, from BC to PEI, with all of its richness and challenges and blessings. And if you're listening to this show, you probably do too. The Canadian Jewish News is now running a special promotion. Right now, sign up to receive our quarterly print magazine using the link thecjn.ca/subscribe to get an entire year of magazines completely free. That's 4 issues starting this winter, completely free. All you have to do is sign up for the magazine at thecjn.ca/subscribe to get in on this amazing promotion. That's all for today. Ellen Besner will be back in the driver's seat in the next few days. The Daily is produced by me, Zachary Judah Kaufman. Our executive producer is Michael Freeman, and our music is by Dov Beck Levine. Thanks for listening.